Hi, everyone. Welcome to our fourth lecture. Thank you for those of you who are joining on to listen live today, and for those of you who are listening to the recorded version, thank you for listening as well. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about calculated fields and doing other types of calculations with Tableau, kinds that are going to be really useful for the journalistic perspective and things that you will be doing. And we're also going to talk about a little bit more of the fit and finish of a dashboard, just making something look really polished and ready for publishing. So we're really getting towards the intense good stuff in this course. And also, this week will be kind of just re-emphasizing some of the things that we've already touched base on in week 2, like a parameter and other things like that, filtering, you having one filter multiple things. Those types of things we'll be talking about today. So let's go ahead and get started. The dashboard that we're going to be looking at today is very similar to this one. We're going to be building something really similar to this. And this dashboard was made by my boss here at Tableau, Ben Jones. He actually wrote a book, and that's where this dashboard comes from. His book is called Communicating Data with Tableau, and I highly recommend it. I'm starting to read through it now, and it's just a phenomenal book. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know, and I'll give you more information on that. But we can find the dashboard that we're going to be working off of on his book's website. And so we're going to be talking about exploring the growth of the internet. So basically, how has the internet grown in the last 10 or so years? Which countries have had the highest growth rates, which have had the least growth? Are there some that, some regions that have more growth than others? So these are the types of questions we're going to be exploring today. So to start playing around with this dashboard, I actually just downloaded this off the web by clicking download here on the bottom of the visualization and then download workbook. Okay, so that's how I got this workbook. And I already have it pulled up, and I've just gone ahead and deleted the sheet so we can build this from scratch on our own. But as you can see, we're connected to our data. And in our data, it's very similar to other World Bank data sets that I put on our class page. We have all these country names. So we have a majority of the countries in the world, if not all. We have the regions that correspond to each country. And then we also have the year. And then for each year, we have the measurement of internet users per 100 people and population. So we've got a couple good measures to work with. We've got some dimensions. We can really get a lot out of this data set, even though it looks relatively simple. So let's jump in. Let's start asking some questions. I'm going to close out of this data, and let's just start by asking the question of what countries do we have in our data set? I'm just going to double-click country name, and there we go. We have all the countries in our data set now. And it looks like we have most countries that are around the world. But let's say I want to see these countries, and I want to see their internet users per 100 people. Let's just drag internet users per 100 people onto color. Okay, so now we have a filled map where the darker the color is, the more internet users. And then we see, okay, it's a really high number, so we're going to do the same thing we did in lecture 2, where we have to filter on year because right now we have the sum over all of the years from 2004 until 2012. We have the sum of that as the internet users per 100 people. It makes no sense that there is 1,017 internet users per 100 people. So let's just filter on year. And just a reminder, there's 2 ways we can filter. We can drag year to filters, or we can right-click on year and say show quick filter. So now we can go through and we can say, all right, I'm going to customize this again. I don't want to show the all. And then let's give ourselves a nice slider to work with. There we go. So this is very similar to what we've already created and already talked about. But let's take this a step further. Let's ask some more questions. I know that in my data set over here, I have internet users per 100 people, and I also have my population. So what if I'm concerned with just the straight total number of people who use the internet, or estimated number of people who use the internet? Well, I can actually create something called a calculated field in Tableau that will grab that number for me. So let's create a calculated field. We've created calculated fields in the past, so we'll just walk through this again. You right-click anywhere over here on this side pane and say Create Calculated Field. And let's call this calculated field Estimated Total Internet Users. And so now if we think about how are we going to grab that number, we know that the internet users we have here is per 100. So if we if we divide that by 100, then we will have the proportion of people that use the internet. And if we multiply that number by the population, we will have the total number, estimated total number of internet users. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's take the internet users per 100 people. Let's multiply that by the population, and let's divide that by 100. And again, remember, all of the fields that we can use when we're creating calculated fields will show up down here under fields. And we can insert them as we see fit into our calculation to basically pull the right number. So what we're saying, like, let's say we're talking about the United States. And I know that there's 70 users per 100 people. So we'd have 70 here. And let's say the population is 1 million. So what Tableau would do is take the 70 times 1 million divided by 100, and then the resulting number for this calculated field for the country United States would be that number. And there are a lot of other different functions and things that we can do and create here. But let's just go ahead and see what this looks like. Let's say OK. So now, maybe I want to see this field map according to the calculation that we just created instead of looking at the total internet users, internet users per 100 people. So let's drag that calculated field onto color. Okay, so right away, my eye is going to, wow, the US has a lot of estimated internet users. And what other countries have a lot? It looks like China probably has a lot. It looks like Germany maybe has a lot. But it's not very easy to see really quickly off the bat what that distribution is for these countries. Which one's at the top, which one's at the bottom? I'm not sure. Well, using Tableau, we can really quickly answer that question. So to do that, I'm going to rename this sheet as map. And we'll be coming back to this. Today is going to be not a super linear path on creating this dashboard. I'm just going to kind of walk you through on my thought process when I'm creating a dashboard. So I'm going to create something and then maybe jump back to the map, maybe, just have it be a lot more free-flowing. So just so you can get a glimpse at how I go about thinking about creating a dashboard. So let's just duplicate this sheet. So now I know that I have the country name and I have the estimated total internet users. Let's go over and check out Show Me. Maybe I want to see this in a bar chart. Okay. So now my bar chart is sorted alphabetically, but I want to see those countries that have the highest estimated total internet users. So I can just simply sort this. So now I was right. United States has the most by a long shot. And then, remember back looking at the map, it was hard to tell which country was next because all these green colors were kind of skewed because the United States has so many. But now we can see that, okay, the next is Japan, Germany, UK, Canada, and so on. So this really quickly shows me what the distribution is. But then let's say I look down here, I look at these countries, and maybe I know someone in Poland, or maybe I know someone in India or Switzerland, and I want to see, okay, where does that fall in the spectrum of the estimated total internet users in the year 1999? What is that number? I'm not sure because I would have to go through and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on until I got to the country that I wanted. But in Tableau, there's built-in table calculations, which will essentially do that thinking for us and display it for us. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a second. But basically, what we're going to be doing right now is just assigning a rank to each of these. We want to just see the rank of how many total internet users are estimated. So to do that, what I would want to do is let's create a table calculation. And what I'm going to do first, I'm going to duplicate this field. So that way I can still see my bar chart, but I can also see the rank that I'm going to create. A fun trick in Tableau, if you hold onto a pill, hold down the Control key, you can get another copy of a pill. Now that I have this extra copy, let's just drop it next to that. So now I have two identical bar charts next to each other because I haven't altered either of these pills yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter one of the pills so that it will show me the rank. So let's just go ahead and try that out and explore this a little bit. So I click the drop-down caret on a pill and I go to Quick Table Calculation. As you can see, there are a bunch of different table calculations here that we can choose that Tableau will do without even bringing up a calculated field window like we did over here. So we mentioned earlier that we wanted to see the rank of these countries to see where they fell within the spectrum of the other countries. So let's just click on it and try rank. Okay, so as you can see now, Tableau is giving us another bar chart on the side over here that's instead of giving us the value, it's now just giving us the rank. So as you can see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is increasing linearly. But let's say I don't really like how this looks visually. It's kind of hard for me to tell what's going on here. I mean, why is this so much larger and then smaller? And then it just is confusing for people when they come look at this at first. So let's try and change this so that it looks like just a number. So what I'm going to want to do is change this so that it's discrete. So now what we have is we have the rank along the top here, but I know that I don't want it along the top. I kind of want it to be down along the sides here. Well, Tableau is really nice in that I can just move this pill around. I can say, all right, I want to put it maybe after country name. And then I have my ranks here. But maybe I want to put it before, actually. So it's really flexible on where you want to put it. And it will honestly depend on the visualization type that you're using. But in this case, I think I like my rank on the left of the country name. So now really quick and easy, I can see, all right, oh, Finland, 23rd in 1999, or Norway, 21st. And I can filter through my different years. And as you can see, my countries and values are changing accordingly. One thing to know about rank is that let's say we come to a year where the number of internet users or the estimated total number of internet users is exactly the same. What is Tableau going to do? There are a bunch of different ways that we can show that. We could have it say 1, 2, 2, 3, or there are a couple others. And I'll show you how you can change that. So to change this quick table calculation that we created off of the pill that's right here, and we know that it's this pill because we have this little delta triangle. That signifies a quick table calculation. So let's click that drop-down caret. To edit this table calculation, we can just go to where it says Edit Table Calculation. So now this is where we control more information on the table calculations. And this holds true for the other types of calculations that we have as well. And those will show up there. So we could say ascending, descending. So if we want to say maybe, okay, what country has the least number of internet users, not the most, we could say ascending. In this case, I think descending makes the most sense. And then we control how Tableau is basically performing the rank. Is it performing it from the table down, from the pane across, and then down, cell, country name? And this will really depend on the data that you're using. Let's say that I had my countries lined up horizontally instead of vertically. Then I would probably want to use pane down or pane across then down. It'll really all depend. And these are all described in such a way where just think about how you have your data set up on the view that you're looking at. If I want to rank them vertically, I want to say, okay, put the first one at the top and give me a 1, put the second one below it, give me a 2. Then of all of these, it makes the most sense for table down because we want to rank them on our table going down. There are other advanced options that you can do here. If you want more information on that, please let me know and we can walk through it together. But then when we have duplicate values with rank, here is our options. We could have the competition type where we have 1, 2, 2, 4, where it will just skip whatever number that's repeated. So let's say that we have a three-way tie for second place. Then it would be 1, 2, 2, 2, 5, and so on. There's another way to modify the competition where you don't give it tied for the top one, you tie it for the bottom one. Or what we can do is set it up in these other two ways. So that really all depends on your personal preference. I think I like the way it is set up now, so I'm just going to say apply and OK. So now we really quickly and easily can see which countries have the top. We've talked about quick table calculations. We've talked about calculated fields. So now, what if I want to go back and forth between the estimated total internet users and just the straight internet users per 100 people? So basically going back and forth from a ratio, so not a ratio, but a number that's on a scale of 0 to 100, or if I want to see, big scale, which countries not only have the most internet users per 100, but also which countries just have the most internet users, period. Well, what I'm going to want to do now is actually go back and create a parameter where I can switch back and forth between these two fields, so I give my user the flexibility to do it themselves and to pick what they want to look at on my dashboard. So if you recall, we can right-click and say Create Parameter. And we're going to create a parameter, and this is going to be, I'll call it Scope. So scope being, do they want to see per 100 or do they want to see total? And I want this to be a string and have it be a list of values. The first value is going to be the estimated total users. And my other one is going to be per 100. So now that I have my parameter set up, I can say, okay. I can even look at my parameter, right-click and show the parameter control and see what values I have that are possibility for my parameter. And if you recall back from week 2, what we did is once we had this parameter, we have to somehow tie it to what we're looking at on the view, aka we're going to create a calculated field that will pull the correct field over here. So let's jump into that. Let's right-click and create a calculated field. We'll call this calculated field display, because what we want to do here is we want to basically tell Tableau what we want displayed when. So our case is going to be this parameter right here. And we're going to tell Tableau when estimated total users, then grab this calculated field. On the other hand, when per 100, then I want you to use internet users per 100. And then we'll end this. So now what this will do is it will grab the appropriate calculated field corresponding to our parameter control. So let's say OK, and let's take a look at this. So now what I want to do is I want to drag display, and let's put that on top of the estimated total internet users. So now what we have is we have our display. We have our per 100, and we have the estimated total, and we can flip back and forth. And as you can see, our view is changing according to this. But there's something that I'm seeing here. My rank isn't changing accordingly. Anyone know why that is? Exactly correct. It's because we have this pill right here that's doing this quick table calculation, and it's ranking the estimated total internet users. It's not ranking display. But for our users, for the people who are going to come interact with this dashboard, we want it to rank by display because we don't like this poor experience where we see maybe the fact that Iceland has the most per 100, but then it's ranked 131 for the estimated total. So this is really easy. All we have to do is let's just take display and let's do the same thing that we did earlier when we created this this quick table calculation. We select the drop-down caret. Let's change it to discrete first. So see, now Tableau is done is it's just discretized that number for us. But we don't want this number, we want the rank. So we can just do a quick table calculation on rank. And there we go. Let's move this over, and let's just get rid of this other table calculation. We don't need this right now. So now, as you can see, we have our quick table calculation working. We can look at it, we can edit it. Okay, it's doing on table down, it's competition. We can check it out in here. We can even look and see the advanced. Okay, it's addressing country name. Perfect. So now if we look and investigate, we can see how Tableau has categorized both Norway and Iceland in the year 2010, because they both have the exact same number of internet users. They've just given it a 1 and grouped it like this. So now let's test this. Awesome. So our rank is working for both our bar chart for per 100 and the estimated total users. So while we're here and looking at this, let's ask another question. Which region has the most internet users? It looks to me like we have a lot of European countries up here. So let's just drag region to color. So now what Tableau has done is it's gotten a little bit confused on how we want to rank these. So all we have to do is go in and just tell it how we want it to be done. So we can edit this quick table calculation. And let's go to the advanced, the running along advanced. And just tell it we also want it to address region. We don't want it to partition by region. We want it to address the region. And now if we look, Tableau's gone back and done what we want it to do, where we have all the countries and we have just the values, and they aren't broken up by region, by the first ranking in each region like we just had. And it looks to me like there's a lot of yellow here, which tells me, yeah, my answer, or my suspicion for my question was correct. A lot of the countries that have a lot of internet users are from Europe. But then we also have Bermuda, where they have the 9th ranking of the number of internet users per 100, and with 84.21 people. And then we also have a couple other countries thrown in here that aren't in Europe. And now just looking at this, let's go ahead and edit the tooltip. It's something that I always forget about doing, but it's really important to go through and clean up the tooltips because it provides a much better experience for your reader. So let's double click on tooltip. And this is what I have right now. We'll first uncheck the include command buttons, and let's just say, I'm just going to edit this tooltip and make it look more clean. We'll have country name, we'll put our region up here, and let's say we want the region to be size 10 font. Something that I like to do when I'm using rank is place the rank in front of the country name. That way it's really clear what people are looking at. They see, oh, 1, Norway, got it. And then instead of having display here, we would like to have it change when we change our parameter control. So say per 100 or things like that, per 100 or estimated total. So what I can do is I can say the number of internet users is blank, and then let's insert that parameter control. So by doing this, we have whatever the parameter is set at. So right now, if I was looking at this, it would say number of internet users is 50 per 100. If I change this to estimated total users, then it would say the number of internet users is 1 million estimated total users. Let's just see what this looks like. So that looks a lot more clean to me than what we had initially. And let's just rename this sheet. Another best practice, go through and rename them as you work. So let's just call this bar chart. And one more thing before we move on is we can continue to make this look really clean. A really fun, cool trick that it looks really, really nice and polished on a dashboard is having the bar chart look like the one that we just saw here, where you have these really cool circles at the end. And they don't signify anything in this case. They just make the bar chart look so cool. It's kind of like a lollipop chart, and which is really easy to make actually. So the first thing I'm going to do is just decrease the width of these bars. I want to make them smaller so they look more like lollipops. Perfect. There we go. And then maybe I want to decrease the transparency a little bit. All right, there we go. Okay, so now we want to get those lollipops on here. We want to have those little circles. So remember earlier when I told you you can hold on to a pill, hold down Control, and grab another copy of it? Well, we're going to do that, and we're going to place it right next to it. So now we have two identical bar charts. But what I want to do is I don't want to have two bar charts. I want to have a bar chart and the little lollipop, and then I want to overlay them. So what I want to essentially create is something called a dual axis plot, where we have two things that are on top of each other, which is actually really easy to do in this case. If we look over here on the marks card, we now have a couple different tabs. We have all, which refers to both of these two displays. And then we also have display, and then display parentheses 2. The first display refers to this bar chart here. The second display is referring to the second copy of display that I dragged onto the view, being this bar chart. So what I want to do now is change this type from automatic to a circle. So now we have our circles here. And to make it look even more like a lollipop, let's do a border, and let's make it a gray border so it really, really pops. And we can increase the size of these a little bit maybe. So now what I'm going to show you how to do is overlay these two so they really get the sense that you are looking at a lollipop here. So to create this dual axis plot, what we call it, we right click on one of these displays up here. So what we want to do is we want to dual axis this information. So that's why we're clicking up, right clicking up here. And then we'll select dual axis. But it looks kind of funky now because Tableau has changed some stuff on us. So now we just need to go back to our first display and say, no, I actually do want a bar chart. And there we go. Look how cool that looks. It looks so fun. And then another thing we can do is we can say, okay, I want Tableau to synchronize these axes. So I'm just right clicking on the axis up here and say synchronize axis. Since we know the information is exactly the same, it would be really a poor experience if we had this axis say go from 0 to 200 and this one go from 0 to 90 because we want them to line up. And then another thing we can do is we can hide this axis down here or hide that header because we already can see and hover over with our tooltip what the number is. And that'll really depend on the situation. Sometimes you'll want to hide the header and sometimes you won't. If you want the header back, all you have to do is go back, click on a pill up top, and just say show header, and then it comes back. So I'm going to hide the header. All right, so now this is looking really cool. I really like the view that we've created so far. And you see how this just goes a step further than what we've done in the past and just makes it look really polished and clean. But now, what if I want to make my map look really clean too, so that when I have it on the bar chart, so it looks really, really cool. So I'm going to go back to my map. And ideally what I would want is I want this to be colored also by my display. So I want to drag display the color. So now we can look at the parameter control and change the parameter, and it will change our display again, just like the bar chart. But to keep it consistent and have it be a good user experience, I'm also going to want to have my region on color. Sorry, I'm going to want to have region on color instead. That way we can see the correlation between, yellow being Europe and this purple color being the Americas and so on. So let's drag region to color. So now what we have is we just have a mark for each place. But the marks aren't telling us anything at this point. All they're doing is saying, hey, I have information for Greenland. Or, hey, I have information for Norway. So now what we're going to want to do is drag display to size. So now we have marks that are sized according to the number of internet users per 100 people. We can go a step further and maybe decrease the transparency again. We can add a gray border. We can add any color border we'd like, actually. And see how this works the same? We can still filter through the years. Are there any questions on what we've gone over so far regarding filtering, calculated fields, things like that? All right. Looks like there are no questions, so I'll just keep on rolling. So now we have this really cool display where we can see all the internet users per 100 or the total users. Wow, China has a lot of users in 2012. Looks like they have a lot of users starting in about the 2000s. What if I want to ask another question? I want to ask the question of over time, which countries have spiked, which countries have had the most internet users at one time. So I can actually create a different view to ask this question. I can create a timeline where you can see the display or the number of users over time. So let's create a new sheet. But before we do that, I'm not going to forget, we're going to do the tooltip. But it's really easy at this point because we've already changed the tooltip here. So let's say that I want to just copy that information from this tooltip on our bar chart, go over to our map, and let's just paste that tooltip information there, and uncheck include command buttons. And let's go ahead and just put our country here, our country name, and let's put the region there as well. Say okay. Awesome. But what we really also want is we want to be able to have that ranking here as well. So let's just go over here and add that detail to this map. So if we take our display, what we want is we want to have the rank for this display on our map instead. But right now it's not displaying anything because we don't have the information there. So I can just have display, drag that onto detail. And then let's just create the calculated field off of this. I'm going to change it to discrete first, add a table calculation, rank, the advanced rank where we have both country and region, and say apply. Now let's go back to our tooltip and add that number in by saying insert rank period. And let's see if this works now. Awesome. Now we have our rank working. So someone can hover over a country and see really quickly and easily what the rank is in a certain year. So we have a really pleasant experience with our map and our bar chart. Let's move on to our timeline. Let's create a new sheet and ask and answer some different questions. So I want to see the years and the display, the values that we have. But let's say, oh, whoa, how cool is this? This is very obvious that as time goes on, the number of internet users is increasing. Very cool. Okay, let's change this to a line chart though, because we get the same idea from this. And let's say I want this broken down by country name. I'm going to drag country name to detail. And so now, remember that my parameter control is set to estimated total users. So as you can see here, China had a huge increase after 2006. The United States is kind of tapering off at this point. But then we have other countries that are also growing, like India. To make it really quick and easy to see what's going on here, let's just continue with the idea of having this colored by region and maybe decreasing the size so we can see the distinct lines better. Let's drag region to color. Okay, cool. Now we can go back and forth between both of my scopes, so either per 100 or the estimated total, and I can see over time what each country had for the number of internet users. And I really like how this looks and interacts. So let's just do one more thing before we start our dashboard. Let's go back and fix our tooltip again. And I'm just going to go back to my bar chart, copy and paste this good tooltip that we've created. But this time, I'm just going to add country in the region and uncheck the include command buttons. So now we can see the number of internet users that they have. I can hide this field label for columns. So again, I just right-click on the year and hide field label for columns. What that does is it makes it a little bit more clean and easy to look at. So now that we've asked and answered some questions, let's combine these onto a really awesome interactive dashboard. Let's create a new dashboard. I'm going to set this dashboard to be 800 by 800. Sure, why not? And let's just start dragging these on. I'm going to rename sheet 3 to be timeline instead. All right, so now we want to make this really easy and quick for someone to interact with and to ask and answer their own questions. So let's drag the map on here first. All right, I've got my map. Let's drag our timeline on here as well. And maybe we also want our bar chart out here. So let's say I want my bar chart. How about over here? So now that we have all the information that we want on our dashboard, what I'm going to do is go through some of the ways that you can make your dashboard look really clean and really clear for publication, because that's what we want. We want to have a really, really nice polished looking view. So something that I'm going to do first is I'm going to just go through and hide these titles. Except what I want to be able to see on this particular graph, this bar chart, what year we're looking at really quickly and easily without having to do any digging on, hovering or things like that. I can actually edit this title and I can insert something and say, how about top countries, and then exactly like with our tooltip, we can insert fields here. We can insert the year. So now, depending on what year I'm looking at with my bar chart, it'll show me right up top what the year is. So now look, we can filter through, but it's not changing the year. And that's because we haven't yet had this year filter apply to all the worksheets on here. And in fact, we don't want it to apply to all the worksheets on here because we want our timeline to stay with all of the years. So let's have this year filter that came out onto our view with the map. Let's have this year filter both the map and our bar chart. I'm going to select my drop-down caret, and let's say we want to have it apply to worksheets, selected worksheets. I want it to apply to my map and my bar chart, and say OK. So now if we look, both the bar chart and the map are changing according to my filter, which is exactly what I want. So I'm going to move my year filter somewhere else, so that way I can really start to design this dashboard and have everything go where I'd like it to go. So I'm going to move it and have it float somewhere on top of my map until I decide exactly where I'd like to place it. So if you click on the year filter, and if I hold Shift down, that turns my filter into be floating. So I can just drop it there. There we go. I'm going to delete this legend here. Size legends are some things that can be somewhat repetitive. There are certain scenarios where they're really cool and important, but as you can see here, it kind of gets cut off. So they're not super, super useful sometimes. So I'm just going to delete this. And then I'm going to move my region filter, have it float until I decide where I'd like it to go, and let's do the same with my parameter control. Okay, so now we're starting to get somewhere. Now we're starting to get to the point where we really have to polish and think about how we want people to interact with this dashboard. How do I want someone to come to this and know what to do? This is one of the main things that I like to think about when I'm designing a dashboard is, if I was someone who is just seeing this for the first time, how would I want to interact with it? What things would I want to see? So the first thing that I would want to see is, how about when I hover over the United States, seeing where the United States falls over here, or having it highlight down below. And so we're going to add a dashboard action similarly to how we did a couple weeks ago. So to add this dashboard action, let's go Dashboard, Actions. Let's add a hover action, or sorry, a highlight action on hover. We want our source sheets to be any of the three. When I'm interacting with any of these three sheets, I want it to highlight the other two sheets with the corresponding country, because that will give me a really full sense of not only the geographic view of the internet, other countries in that area have high internet usage. It'll give me the ranking of that, and it'll also give me a sense of the time. So it'll be a really complete, full experience. And then I also want my target sheets to be those three as well. And let's have this run on hover. For selected fields, just the country name. And let's say OK. Let's test this out now. Awesome. Now I can really quickly see where these countries are, which is a really positive experience for other people. So let's continue to expand and really, really enhance the user experience on this. Maybe I want to hide these two, because it's pretty clear that these are countries, and it's pretty clear that these are rankings. And then I can go a step further and just continue this fit and finish of this dashboard. I can drag my column width and decrease the column width of the ranking, because I know that my ranking is never going to exceed 200-ish, which is 3 digits. So I can even go a step further and give that less room. And then I can maybe decrease the country name. But now it's kind of a funky experience up here, because we have a vertical scroll bar and a horizontal scroll bar. So something I can do that we've done in the past is fit this to width. So I can go the drop-down caret, fit width. And this is a much more pleasant experience, because now I don't have 2 scroll bars. I just have my vertical scroll bar. And the other thing I'm noticing is I have it so it says display down here, but are my readers going to know what display is? No, they're not. They're just going to be concerned with what is the number on this axis. What am I looking at here? So I can actually go in and just hide this display right here. So it just shows the numbers. If I double click on my axis, I just want to tell it I want no title. So I can just delete what it has for title under titles and say apply. And as you can see there, display has gone away. And we'll say OK. So my right-hand side of my dashboard, I'm thinking looks really clean. I've got my interaction there. It looks awesome. But now let's continue the fit and the finish of the rest of the dashboard. A little bit of fit and finish goes a long way before publishing. So let's do the same thing over here and just delete display and say apply. Okay, so we're getting closer. let's say that I don't want to show the title of my region filter because people already know these are regions. They don't necessarily need me to tell them that. And then I can put my region filter in this white space that I already have in my dashboard. That way it doesn't take up any additional room. And then maybe I want to have it so that my reader can have the control of what they'd like to look at. Maybe I want them to be able to pick the scope. So I can put my parameter control up top. So it's really quick and easy and clear for them to know that that's how I want them to interact with it. And then let's say I want to also be able to filter my dashboard by region. Let's say I am only concerned with what's going on in Africa. I want to be able to filter to Africa. So let's go back to our map. And let's put a filter on this map. And right now I want to look at all of them. And that's awesome. Let's just say okay. All right. So now if we go back to our dashboard, we can drag out that quick filter for region by selecting the drop-down caret, saying quick filters, and saying region. So now we have one of the multi-select regions here. But I'm going to change the type of this region filter to be a drop-down filter. And I'm going to have it be single value. But now if we look at this, it's another kind of poor experience because we are only filtering this map right here. So in this case, instead of having it apply to selected worksheets, I actually want it to apply to all the worksheets using the data source because I want to be able to see the timeline, the bar chart, and the map all have the same region. So I can just click all using this data source. So now you can see my readers can choose what they want to look at. And they can still look at all the countries as well. It totally depends on what they'd like. And then something else that's kind of fun is where are we going to put this particular year filter? We want to put it in a spot where people know to interact with it and want to do some cool things with it and see the trends over time. So a fun place to put this is actually down here below our timeline. If you can get it lined up so that we can have the filter, the slider, correspond to what we're seeing on the axis. It's kind of a cool experience. So to do that, we're just going to hide the title. And so then as you can see here, it's really close to having it be lined up. Having this filter be lined up with this display. So something that I might want to do is customize this quick filter to not show the readout. So now it's kind of cool because it's mostly lined up with this particular graph right here. There we go. Now it is lined up. So it provides kind of a cool experience. We can even put this down a little bit. That way we have more room for our filter. Or sorry, our legend, color legend. And so now just look at this dashboard. It just looks so much more polished and clean than it would have if we hadn't done those really quick and easy ways of making it look really polished. And then we can go a step further and we can drag, a text box to the top and have a title on our dashboard that says, Exploring the Growth of the Internet. And we can make this title larger, say 18, we can bold it. So now as you can see, our dashboard just looks so much better. It looks so clean and polished and really easy and intuitive to interact with. Another thing that we might want to do is maybe drag a text box right here and say, choose the scope and region with the drop-down filters. So now people know how to interact with my dashboard. It's all about guiding the reader, telling them how to interact with this. Are there any questions so far on what we've done or anything that you'd like to see changed on this? Okay, first question. You see that there's a little bit of dark part of the bar underneath the circle. Is there anything we can do to change that? Yeah, there actually is. If we go back to this bar chart, we can just decrease the transparency on the circles. Sorry, increase the transparency, make it more non-transparent. So now if you look, we can't see those bars. It's a good point. It makes it look a lot cleaner. Are there any other questions? All right, I'm going to go ahead and publish this to the web now. I think it looks really clean. I can interact with it. I can see where there are a lot of internet users. I can look at, let's say we want to set this on 2012, and we want to look at all the regions. One thing that I noticed because I was playing around with this is that this color legend now has a scroll bar. And something to know about these is that scroll bars are really never very pleasant on dashboards. We really like to not have scroll bars. Scroll bars are not pleasant on color legends. So whenever we can, we like to get rid of those. So now it looks a lot better, but maybe I want to zoom in a little bit just so I can see the full map. Maybe I want to zoom in a little bit more. I know Greenland's the top of what I'm seeing. And there we go. So now I'm really happy with how this dashboard's looking. So I'm going to publish it. If I go Tableau or server, Tableau public, say to web ads. And right now I'm using desktop. It's very similar to Tableau public. So now I'm going to save this to the web. And I would just go through the process of inputting my credentials and saving it to the web. So that, my friends, is how we would use some calculated fields, quick table calculations, and have just a little bit more fit and finish on a dashboard, some dashboard design tips. So if there are no other questions, I will go ahead and log off for the day, but office hour times will be scheduled very soon. I'd love to see you in office hours. If you find that the times that I set aside for office hours don't work very well with your schedule, please let me know. I'd be happy to set up some one-on-one time with a WebEx or Skype or something. So please go ahead and let me know. Right now I'm going to go ahead and toss the URL for the dashboard that we mocked this after, the one that my boss, Ben Jones, has created for his book. And put that in the chat box. Feel free to explore it as you'd like, download it, reverse engineer some things, play around with it. And yeah, so I hope everyone has a great week, and I look forward to seeing more of the things that you choose to create. All right, bye everyone.